Welcome back to Digital Dust, The Man Will Talk, Episode 3. This is the podcast where we break down each episode of HBO Max's 4-part documentary series all about Burning Man, The Man Will Burn. Now, if you've been following along this far, you'll know that BurnerSphere, formerly BRCvr, the official virtual Burning Man experience that lets you explore the art, culture, and community of Burning Man all year long from your Mac, your PC, or your VR headset, has been featured prominently in this series. So that's where we are, inside BurnerSphere. And if you haven't had the chance to experience BurnerSphere for yourself, we invite you to do so. It's easy. Just go to BurnerSphere.com to get started. And because we really look forward to seeing you in here and playing with you in our digital dust, we'll gift you a free month that unlocks absolutely the hundreds of worlds that we have to offer in here and experience. Just enter the code Digital Dust. That code will be valid until the gates open at Black Rock City 2026. Now, we are breaking down episode 3, Waking Dreams, and in this episode, we got to finally arrive on Playa, along with the characters that we've been following in the last 2 episodes, including our own Lindsay. So we want to be clear, first and foremost, that we are not representing HBO, Burning Man Project, or any other affiliated entities involved in the show. All the opinions expressed on this podcast are solely of the folks right here at this table. So, spoilers ahead for HBO Max's The Man Will Burn, Episode 3. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it and then come back and dive in with us. I'm Justin Gunn, a.k.a. Just Justin, a producer here in BurnerSphere, along once again with my esteemed colleagues, BRCvr and BurnerSphere co-founders Doug Jacobson and Athena Demos. And once again, we are joined by our very special colleague who happens to be, dare I say, one of the stars of the series, BurnerSphere's own Lindsay Handren. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. That was a pretty good episode, right?
Yeah, it was. It made me want to go back to Burning Man.
Me too.
Yes,
I was on
indeed.
the
It did have
fence,
that
and then I
effect.
saw that episode, and then I was like,
I know.
"Oh shit,
I
I gotta
know.
go
Well,
back."
It's possible episode 4 may make you not want to go back to Burning Man. But, you know.
Right.
So this episode opens up with the Golden Spike ceremony, which happens. When is the Golden Spike? Is it early August?
It's
Yeah, it's the beginning. It's like right now, maybe next weekend. Yeah,
And
it's
we saw
last weekend in
little
July.
snippets of that. Athena, why don't you tell us what happens out there at the Golden Spike? Expand on that for our audience a little bit.
I've actually never been to the Golden Spike ceremony. I would love to go. I was actually contemplating going this year, but then it just didn't fall into place. What happens? So the very center of the entire city, so where the man is the very center. There is a spike that gets put into the ground, and it's gold. And if you watch the episode, you'll see it's a golden spike, and everybody touches it. And what happens is the spike gets hammered into place, and everybody that's there gets an opportunity to take a whack at it and knock it in until it's already in and all the way in. And then that marks the spot that everything gets measured out from. The entire radial of the city of Black Rock is all measured from that point. From that point, they figure out where the boundary fence, what we call the trash fence, is going to be. And that's the first thing that they put in from that radial point is the boundary of the city. And then everything gets built in from that point and out from the center. And that's the Golden Spike.
Excellent. So after 3 years off of Burning Man, 2 Burning Man cycles that didn't happen except for here in BRCvr and BurnerSphere, and of course that Renegade Burn that we saw in the last episode. This episode sets up a question that we hope will get answered, and I think does pretty well. It asks the question in a soundbite. They say, can Burning Man still provide a transformational experience, or is it a victim of its own success? How do we think this focus of this episode was going into this? It's a good way to sort of get into meeting our characters and on their personal journeys.
They just get right to it. There's no prep, which is fine. They're like, fine, we got to get to Playa. Let's just start there. They actually start with Lindsay arriving in her van. I remember that night. Well, we were with she was part of our camp, and
We're
we were in that
caravan.
line forever.
Ever,
And it was
yes.
dusty and it was painful.
Lindsay, what was the adventure like getting to Burning Man for you?
It was pretty chaotic because everything, like packing and organizing and like physically moving all, like taking all of my stuff down like small loads at a time, because it was just like small elevator, me, one wagon. Everything took way longer preparing than I had anticipated. So I ended up leaving like 24 hours later than planned and having to try to like play catch up to catch up with the rest of my camp's caravan. So I was like coming off of pretty much no sleep. I think maybe I laid down for like 2 hours before I actually got in the van to start driving.
Oh, no.
And then I just drove straight through from Pasadena, which is Southern California, all the way up. I was just like pedal to the metal trying to get there as safely and swiftly as possible to catch up with the rest of our camp's caravan with Doug and Athena and some other people. And finally caught up with them like a couple hours outside of Gerlach somewhere, I think.
She tends to leave late for Burning Man, so she's going to leave next week for Burning Man just to make sure she gets in
Just to be on the safe side.
It's nice.
Well, it was-
I'm gonna
was-
leave next week for next year, and maybe I'll get there
exactly.
only a day late instead of 2.
Right.
Well, it was awesome to see you arriving at gate, and they say you're going to have to get out, and seeing you do a dust angel where you lay in the dust and you swing your arms and ring the bell.
And yeah, it was like 3:00 in the morning from like by the time we got the like few miles from the beginning of Gate Road to actually getting to gate and the greeters and ringing the bell and then finding our camp coordinates. Like I so badly wanted to just like teleport to the sky and be like, oh, okay, here we are. Like, I know where this is now.
And then
that was one of the advantages that we built
tired.
into BRCvr. It was a function of alt spaces that you could fly. And so to be able to have that perspective and fly over Burning Man was such a neat thing. It was, it's kind of like getting high at Burning Man and getting high in BRCvr are two totally different things.
Yeah, totally.
So after we see Lindsay land, she does her dust angel, she rings the bell, she gets disoriented, despite her familiarity with BRCvr and the layout of Black Rock City. Then we jump over to Ray. And I gotta say, I was just wincing when he pulled out this little tiny, like 2-man backpacking tent with these little tiny aluminum 6-inch stakes.
We had so much wind that year. I was just curious the entire episode. Did his tent stay in the ground?
Well,
with
that's
those
why I was saying
tiny
that. I thought they were
stakes?
gonna, for sure, they were gonna cut back to that happening. They were setting
I just
it
felt
up.
like, yeah, they did set it up, but it's something that only burners would
Inside
know.
baseball.
Yeah, it's a very inside baseball of like, for those who've not been to Burning Man, those little tent stakes don't work. They are no match for the winds that are out there. I mean, the way you want at least a 12 or even an 18-inch lag bolt drilled into the playa. Otherwise, you come home and your tent will not be there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
like
think
the first 12 inches is just soft.
That's
and
what they all
that stake is just in the soft stuff.
Yeah, I think this camp, besides Ray's camping,
don't worry about it.
We're
Dirty minds over here.
It's dirty minds.
Besides Ray's camp experience, being with those people, I think this episode was like, we're just not getting into camp life. Like that was it for all of camp life for anybody, and they focus on other things. But
and that's one of the challenges of a documentary in 4 episodes about Burning Man is, you really have to make choices about what you show and what you leave on the table.
But one of the funnest things we did was we threw a big party that year in 2022 at our camp, Come As Your Avatar, because there were so many people who we had all met, like from literally all over the world, different countries, everywhere, that we knew as avatars and became really close friends in VR. And for a lot of people, it was going to be like our first time meeting in real life, the people who were able to come to Playa that year. And so we told everyone to dress as their avatars.
I was sure that was going to be
each other.
a setup loop. I was sure they were going to pay
Yeah.
that off. I was like,
It's
it was
just
a
it's
perfect
just
payoff to the virtual burn.
it's all, I mean, time constraints. Like it
Time
should have been
constraints.
it should have been more episodes. But yeah, they shot that. That was so much fun. But it didn't make it
We
into
had like
the
100 people at that party.
Yeah,
That's
Lindsay
true.
represents, it wasn't just Lindsay in there. There was lots of people that shared Lindsay's experience of experiencing Burning Man first
trying to
during the
hold it
pandemic
down
in
for the
VR
community.
and then showing
That's
up.
right.
That's right. Lindsay finds her way out also to the Philharmonic. Ray, they cut to Ray, which is so funny. There's a scene where somebody says, "Would you like a mushroom chocolate?" And he's like, "Well, okay, why not?" And what was the line? The line, he goes, "Boy, people out here really like their
Really
vegetables at
like their
Burning Man."
vegetables.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
The
that
mushrooms seem to be
line.
very popular.
I love my veggies. I'm a total vegetarian.
That was
Yeah.
definitely a laugh out
That was
loud moment. That was
hilarious.
sweet. I mean,
Yeah.
Ray has these just wonderful babe in the woods moments that are so
I
sweet and
love
so funny.
him.
I do too. Yeah.
Yeah, Ray's
I
Um,
love him.
go.
and then we see Kimball Musk again, and
Oh yeah, Kimball, the Kim.
I didn't realize
Mhm.
that was his 20-second burn.
Yeah,
They had it
old
like
school
on his
burner.
like name plate or
Oh
whatever
wow.
Yeah, it did.
under
It said
Kimball Musk
20-second
Wow.
burn.
20-second burn.
Wow. 22nd. Wow.
And we
Yeah.
start
Impressive,
to
Kimball.
dive into this story thread in this episode, this section where we're really talking about, billionaires at Burning Man, the influence of money at Burning Man, the role that it plays. And Marianne has a quote where she says that Burning Man is more reliant on their funders than ever before.
It's
Yes.
impressive. Kimball.
So,
So wait, let me ask a question here. The end of the last episode, they left it on a coup cliffhanger.
yeah, they
Cut
did, didn't
to
they?
the next year,
They
and
kind of
it's
just
sort of been
dropped it.
resolved. They dropped it,
Yeah.
Well, it
but
wasn't a coup, obviously.
it wasn't a
Well,
successful
it was
coup.
kind of a
But
false
he's.
tease.
I don't think the coup was obviously real or successful. But he does talk about what is a secession from Marion, and I don't know where Kim was going. He does come across as being very. He talks in fractals, like he's talking in a language that is coded
Ooh,
in a way,
that
and
yes, that is a good
and
explanation.
and I can't quite figure. He's being nice or mean, or
Description.
is he pulling a knife on her, or is he patting her on the back? What's going on here? So
Yeah,
anyway,
if there's a villain character in this series, they keep kind of setting Kimball up to be that character. I'll be interested to see
Yeah.
in episode 4 how that thread resolves. And so we kind of dive into this section of this episode where we're really talking about the influence of money. And I thought that they pretty artfully juxtaposed giant art cars that are heavily funded by tech folks with folks who are down in, kind of down in the dust and scraping it together to make it happen. We meet Quill from
Mm-hmm.
Acapulco, and he and the story of his wife. They have their little kid. She was pregnant. He cashed in $80,000, their last $80,000, and invested it into this art car. And that adventure broke up their relationship.
yeah.
But interestingly, it didn't break up their collaboration as artists at Burning Man, and they continue to operate the art car together. And it's a very beautiful story, but it shows, that it's not all billionaires out there making art. That there are people that are doing it out of the passion with whatever they have.
There's more people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into art and leverage themselves and mortgage their homes to make art so that they can share it with the community. It's not like this ego first. I have to make this art to satisfy my ego. And as they show with Acavallo, it's not that he needed to create the art to satisfy himself. It's to share it with the world. It's to see the smiling faces on the art car.
The
So I
wife
got to
did not
ride a horse.
portray the $80,000 while she was pregnant as a responsible choice that
No,
he
she
should
did
have made.
not.
And
I
so,
believe it led to their
while it is
separation. Yeah.
inspiring that he wants to have some smiles from some people, I don't know that was the best idea. However, it's not Burning Man's fault. It's a venue for art, and people who are artists are excited to take their art to this venue. because there's not a lot of venues for this kind of art.
Almost none.
So there's that.
So,
but
so the filmmakers
have a nervous breakdown after.
The filmmakers then juxtapose Quill and a Cavallo and what it takes to put that on. Then they jump directly to, we meet Justin Kahn of Justin TV fame and ultimately the founder of Twitch. Here's another big money guy at Burning Man. And it was a very different kind of sentiment that he was conveying, which was one of, it's the biggest art car. It's the best sound system.
Yes.
We have the best lasers, like as if it's a competition.
We're the tallest.
What we just saw with Quill, which is I'm going to leverage all of my belonging, my worldly possessions with a child on the way to make this thing happen, as opposed to we're doing it because we want to be seen as the biggest, the best DJs, the best lasers. I don't know what the best lasers even mean. It's very cool. It's just, am I the only one that just finds it a little bit odd that, nowhere else kind of in the art world, other than maybe for like what a piece of art sells for, is there that competitive spirit of like, ours is better, ours is bigger, ours has better this or that. I don't know. To me, that's a weird kind of sentiment. What came exactly after that in the episode is we meet Farhad, the Iranian American, who's another billionaire, who had a very different attitude and a very different take on it. And I remember kind of thinking like, well, he seems like one of the good ones. He had the right attitude. So I thought it was very purposeful on the part of the filmmakers to show somebody. And look, I know how this game goes. Like, I don't want to talk smack about Justin Kahn too much, because we don't know what else he said in that interview, but they thought, well, let's pull those sound bites because that'll play really well against these other two clips.
Yeah, but to be fair, they did give him a little bit of a backstory, and they did have him saying that he was sort of a loner, and that he had this need to, so they gave him. I mean, his humanity came through on that. He didn't seem like a robot or
no.
Kimball comes across more like sometimes a robot, like a Justin
he
seems
does.
like a human being.
He seems fairly emotionless.
Well, Farhad struck me with something really interesting. He had an interesting quote where he said, if all of the the big money people at Burning Man took 2% of their returns from their investments and just gave it to Burning Man, then Burning Man could really soar. And they could lower ticket prices, and it could be, I think he said, it could be more burning, it could be burnier or more Burning Man spirit or something like that. And I thought that was a really beautiful sentiment.
And it made me want to find his camp. Like, I want to try Iranian coffee. I want to have Iranian food. I think that's a beautiful culture, and I'd like to experience it. And I'm more likely going to experience it at Burning Man than I am actually going to Iran.
So just to switch gears here, we've sort of introduced, the influence of money at Burning Man and how different people with a lot of money choose to spend their money and where they want to put it. And then we get a shot that I don't have a question. I just want to point out Ray in a tutu on Tutu Tuesday.
Oh, yes. He talked about it in episode 2.
Yeah.
And he had his tutu on, and kudos.
There he was.
I love everyone that walks around on Tuesday with a tutu on. Like, way to step out of your comfort zone and try something else. That's what Tutu Tuesday is all about.
We then jump in and we check in with Zoe Nightingale. And Zoe is our entry point into the discussion about social media at Burning Man and cell phones. And I thought it was just a really interesting moment that they captured where she's cruising around on her golf car.
How did she get that golf cart, by the way?
How did she get? I'm guessing maybe a disabled placard, because it's not really fully art car compliant. So Zoe's driving around on her semi-decorated golf car, and she's kind of being rather burninger than thou. She comes across a woman, taking glamour photos in front of an art piece, and she goes in like gangbusters with her heavy snark, and starts like, oh, you look beautiful. How's the picture? What are you doing? and the tables get turned on her because the lady that she is basically talking shit to, and trying to call out for being an Instagrammer and doing it wrong. You know, that's an old line at Burning Man. You're doing it wrong, right? And she's coming up saying you're doing it wrong in her snarky way, and she recognizes her from her videos, I guess, and turns it around, and there's this great moment where Zoe's on, like, literally falls to her knees and is like, oh shit, I've been called out. And that's something that happens at Burning Man, where you think you're doing the right thing, you're calling somebody out, and really, you know, you point a finger out at somebody, and you've got, you know, at least 3 or 4 others pointing back at yourself. So it was an interesting moment of, like, you know, maybe
I think,
don't tell other people how to burn.
Yeah, Zoe was a little bit like that, but I will say,
she's an Instagrammer too.
Well, I know that's what's so funny
well,
about
there you
it.
go. Yeah.
She's an Instagrammer.
But what I will say, I'm gonna get Zoe had the potential to really annoy me in this episode, but and there were moments she did, but I will give her credit, because in this episode she also exemplified immediacy. And what I mean by that is she's driving around in her car and then creating random moments of, you know, picking up that person, driving them to the thing, where's the horse, encountering people. And so she was a really great example of the randomness of running into things and happening things in Burning Man. And I'm really glad they showed that element, because we spent a lot of time doing that, especially if you have a mutant vehicle, which I had an era of a mutant vehicle. You do a lot of that ping-ponging random moments, the immediacy that you really want. So
okay, so that is our entry into the discussion of, you know, Instagrammers, social media, being present, the sense of immediacy. We get some clips from Larry talking about, you know, cell phones on the playa. This was a big thing that, for people who don't know, back in the day, you know, Black Rock's desert is really in the middle of nowhere. It's, you know, without any traffic, it's 2 hours from Reno, just deep into the desert. I think it's like 70 miles off of the nearest highway. And there are no cell towers out there. There weren't any cell towers out there. And that was part of the magic in the older days, was to go out there and your phone wasn't going to work. And we didn't all have, you know, fancy cameras and high-end cameras on our phone, so it wasn't that kind of device. And I remember just putting it in a Ziploc bag and, you know, throwing it in the glove box of the vehicle, and you didn't even think about it. It wasn't part of your experience, and it was really refreshing. And so over the years, as cell service started to sort of happen out there and become stronger and stronger and stronger, to the point now there's Starlink and everybody has access, and they can, you know, to the internet, and they can upload, you know, like influencer videos in real time. You could stream from the playa if you know, got the right equipment. It's just an interesting evolution where technology, and we talk about tech bros and money and all of that, but also the default world and technology creeping in to what used to be just sort of like a vacation from all of that.
I did enjoy the less cell phone era. Cell phones are people's main camera, so it is also their photography. You know, I walk out. I tell you, this past year, 2025, I walked out at dusk, and it was dusk is my favorite time of day, and you could just see all the Instagram influencers coming out with their braided hair. They all look with the same outfit, weirdly, and the skimpy outfit, and then some of them actually help them take some photos and stuff. But it was a lot of Instagram models out on the playa. I was like, oh, geez, this is.
So one of the ways that Burning Man acts like its own immune system is, for every action there's a reaction. And so one of the ways that they show burners responding to Instagram models is with a shirt cocker meetup and a shirt cocker crawl.
Yes.
For those who don't know what shirt cockers are,
that.
I know. So for those who don't know what shirt cockers are, it was a term that came from Burning Man back in the day, and it was a term to describe what was typically a lone guy right? You, there's a cock involved, and it's Donald ducking. It's wearing a t-shirt and no pants with your genitalia, your junk out. And it was a certain type of guy back in the day who was a shirt cocker, and shirt cocker became a kind of one of those derided terms, and a kind of a derided behavior. The way that Burning Man originally kind of tried to deal with, one of the first ways Burning Man tried to deal with shirt cockers back in the day is there was an invention called the pantsuka, and it was basically like a potato launcher with rolled up, bundled up pairs of pants. And so they would go hunting for shirt cockers or naked people, and they would boom and fire a pair of pants at these people.
There's a long history. So there used to be the Critical Tits Parade where thousands of women would drive with their boobs out. And then there was the Critical Dicks Parade, which was very similar, where the men would go out with their, naked or with their shirt cocking.
But the reason shirt cocking was kind of frowned upon generally is it because it wasn't the act of shirt cocking itself. It tended to be the character or the archetype of person who shirt cocked. And it was, kind of like a leathery, tan, older guy who was creepy and was kind of often taking advantage of the principle of radical inclusion to sort of creep on people and make them feel uncomfortable, and kind of got a kick out of that, out of making people feel uncomfortable. And so you never see a real shirt cocker walking down the street with his girlfriend. He's always alone. You never see a pack of real shirt cockers. You never see him traveling in packs. It's always that lone guy.
Yeah, but this was a pack in the documentary.
But it was ironic, and it was purposeful. Right. Shirt cockers were leveraging something that used to be a scourge to try to counteract the new scourge, which is influencers. So it begs the question: what's worse, shirt cockers or influencers? Then we get a soundbite from my friend Evil Pippi. It was great to see her up there sitting in the teapot, and she was talking about the plug and play camps. And this was another big challenge over the years that Burning Man has had to deal with. And it's the idea that some of these big moneyed people would come out there and they'd build these walled garden camps that were limited access. You had to be a member of the camp. They were not really providing any service necessarily to others. They weren't open to all. They had wristbands. It was a VIP concierge type experience that was, most people in the community said, well, this is not Burning Man. And so again, it's kind of like you're doing it wrong. And it's a fine line of like, well, let everybody burn how they want to burn. But at what point, whether it's shirt cocking back in the day, it's Instagrammers, or it's people setting up effectively hotels and charging $100,000 for a ticket and a luxury package to be able to go and quote unquote experience Burning Man. It's like safari tours. And at that point, doesn't that just reduce everyone else at Burning Man to animals,
Yes.
Well, and no spectators, it's not a transformational experience at that point.
So placement, we meet Level again. We met him in the first episode, and he's in charge of all placement. So when you apply at Burning Man for a camp, you apply for placement. If you have any kind of infrastructure, this is absolutely necessary because space is limited out there, and a lot of it is pre-prescribed on where you're going to be. And if you moop too much, too much litter, too much waste at your camp, you're going to get docked the next year and you get moved out, or you might get denied placement entirely. So Marion and Level, we follow them on this mission. It's like an episode of Cops a little bit here, where they're going around and they're talking to some of these offending camps where they've gotten some complaints, and trying to have some of those conversations with folks that maybe just aren't participating. Doug, I just want to highlight, you said something that got a little bit buried that I want to bring up, which is you said no spectators, participants only. And long before there were 10 principles at Burning Man, there was one general rule, and that was it: no spectators, participants only. And so the idea of these plug and play camps, people fly in on their private planes, they get picked up by an art car, they go to their luxury concierge service with people that clean up after them and fancy chefs, and they're not really there participating. They're really there spectating. And I think that's So this is
Okay.
the part in the episode where we check back in with Lindsay, and again, kind of following that thread of the transformational experiences that our main characters are having at Burning Man. You tell a story in the episode, Lindsay, about you found a guy who crashed his bike. He kind of reminded you saw in him something of yourself. You
Yeah.
attended the
That was a good
playa
story.
wedding, and you had a really introspective moment. Can you want to just kind of elaborate on that a little bit for us? Did you feel that you had a transformational experience that year at Burning Man?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of stuff like that I had talked about in the years prior when they had come to do interviews or whatever at my apartment. There were a lot of themes of like loneliness and isolation, obviously, and then just like over time, I don't know, personal stories like that they had known about me. A lot of it gets into like deeper stuff and like developing like walls and trust issues and stuff over the years. So that's like kind of how that conversation got brought up with what they used in the film, is how it's like really difficult for me to like just accept help or ask for help or expect anybody else to help me, because I'm just like my, I don't know, like decades of life experience have just been like, oh, well, everyone's like, people are going to leave and fucking disappoint you and like whatever. So just do everything yourself. Um, and I was trying to like get out of that and be more like accepting of like people want to help me, and then like me being like, no, I'm fine, I got it, is like essentially kind of them perceiving me as just pushing them away when that's not my intention at all. And so they had, when I caught back up with them on Playa, they had asked if like how that was going, if I had been like, I don't know, had any sort of experiences. And I ironically had just had like the actual reverse of that happening as I was um biking out to Temple one day. And it was like he just completely wiped out, like a dude by himself. He was from another country, I don't remember where, but he had an accent. And like not the best English, but like we figured each other out, whatever. I helped him put his shit back together. And he was extremely grateful, but he was so resistant to like have me help or
Mm,
anybody help. And then I don't know, it was just like an epiphany moment where I'm like, fuck. Cause I felt bad. I was like, does he like not think I'm competent to help him? Like, cause I'm a girl, like all these stupid scenarios that like were not his intention at all were running through my mind. And I was like,
mm.
dude, this is probably what people think like when I don't allow
Right.
people in, like, am I questioning their competence or their ability to help or whatever? Which no, I'm not. I personally don't want to be a burden, but that can come off completely different from the opposite POV. So that was something that,
Then we visit Ray for another incredible moment where he comes up to the Circle of Doors tarot, which is another art piece that we feature prominently here in Burning Man, BurnerSphere, both as a 3D model that you can actually explore in 3D and open and close the doors yourself. But we also have a 3D documentary with the artists, and come and check it out. I highly recommend it. So Ray has his experience, and there's all these doors on the outside, and the one that he chooses is Hermit. And he is blown the fuck away by this experience, and he sees that he has been a hermit living in the woods. That is who he is, and it really dives into his trauma that he's experienced through overseas in war, and the
Right.
PTSD that he struggles with. And it really just it hits hard, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
I
they
loved
did
how
a
they showed like El Popo and the fire going off, and then like a big
yeah,
Afghanistan explosion, and just the
Yeah.
juxtaposition between all like the crazy mortars going off in war, and then the fire and the explosions that go off at Burning Man, and just I can't imagine what is going on inside of a soldier's head that who
Hmm.
is experiencing Burning Man for the first time. For Ray to have that experience, it must be so triggering, and yet this is a completely different energy. So
Yeah.
same stimuli, but a completely different energy.
And he tells a terrible, awful story about a tank rolling over a family, and it's just
let's not go over that.
Well, no, but the point is he faces it, and through this experience, this random encounter with this random art piece in the middle of the desert, it brings it all out, and it hits him like a ton of bricks, and he has what by all accounts is a genuine transformational experience. So there's another one. And after that, we cut back to Lindsay again for probably, so far, my absolute favorite scene of this entire series so far. Lindsay in the Thunderdome.
Oh my God, I love that.
Well, okay, wait. No, first,
Slow-mo
we have to give appreciation to, before I get to the Thunderdome, I am wearing my avatar outfit, riding the bike with Ian, and I question whether those shoes were the best idea for biking.
Oh, that was a funny beat. That was a funny beat.
Right.
When they pan down to the shoes.
How tall are those platforms? Are they like
those
a
are
foot
9
tall?
inches. 9 inches tall.
Platform boots. Wow.
9 inches. They were not the best for biking, but I survived. Ironically, the day before, I think it was, I had on like shoes that were only maybe 4 inches. They weren't that big. And I crashed my bike and ate shit with Ian. That's why I was like, I hope I don't eat shit today. Wearing even more extreme shoes while I'm on the bike. I did not, though. I didn't eat shit that day.
So you didn't wear those shoes in the Thunderdome, though?
In the Thunderdome.
I did not. I wore 6-inch platforms in the Thunderdome.
So tell us about that experience, Lindsay. Yeah, tell us about how did you end up in the Thunderdome?
It was after our VR party, whatever day that was, when we were in camp, and one of the directors asked if I would, like, what I would think about fighting in Thunderdome, and I was like, oh gosh, that's like terrifying. But then at the same time, I was like, you know what? Fuck yeah. Because then like the inner like competitive athlete baddie who like is used to, like going and competing on my horses and doing that type of stuff kind of like came up, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. And so we did. I got on my like Thunderdome outfit, with the fishnets and like the more like darker motif. And we went to Thunderdome, and one of my friends from camp, Sarah, was also there and volunteered as tribute to fight me.
Okay, and that brings us to the end of this episode where all of the characters converge at the Man on Saturday night for the Man burning. Not anything that we haven't seen before, but some lovely reflective shots of people sort of enjoying it, our characters, Lindsay, Ray, etc. I did feel that they kind of... they didn't really, I don't know, purposefully or not, didn't capture the crazy, manic, super party energy that is the Man burn. It felt a little bit more somber in this portrayal than it actually is in person. Let's go ahead and close this one out. We leave this episode with a tease to 2023. We see the rain. Muddy Man is on the horizon. Marion has a quote saying, "We can't take any more challenges that could break us." Will the final episode of The Man Will Burn, will it be the event that breaks Burning Man? Well, I think we all know the answer to that, but it surely was a challenge, and that is to come. So I think that wraps it up for us. Let's do our quick grade on this episode. I give this one another solid A. Just really, really, really good, really nice. I loved Lindsay in the Thunderdome. I loved the character development. I thought it was beautiful.
I've been waiting 4 years to see that.
So what do you think, Lindsay? What was your grade on this episode?
I'd also give them A+. I don't know. It was good. It was cool to see people's transformational journeys.
Doug?
Yeah, I would give it. I was going to give it an A- until the Thunderdome scene, obviously, and then I punched it to an A. And this episode did, and then at the end, my whole thing is, this made me want to go back to Burning Man. So then they succeeded in what they did.
Well, there you go. Athena?
A lot of nostalgia.
I like the interweaving of all the storylines. I thought that was really nice. And I loved a lot of the photography as well. So I would give it a solid A for sure.
All right. Well, there's our scores for this episode. We have one more episode to go in the docuseries, but we're going to keep this discussion going beyond that. We've got some very special guests that we're working on getting in here to BurnerSphere. So please like the videos, hit that subscribe button so you can watch episodes as they drop, and let's continue the conversation. And come join us in BurnerSphere. Go to BurnerSphere.com, download the app for your Mac, your PC. It's free, and if you want to unlock absolutely everything for the next month, you can get access to all that we have to offer. Type in the code Digital Dust, and we'll see you here in the Digital Dust. Until next time.